Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm very excited to bring you a review for something a bit different. This review is going to be for Super 7 Ultimate's Banzai-Tron. Now, some of you might be wondering, what's this all about? Well, Super 7 has been making Transformers-related action figures, typically in their reaction line, which is like small, simple figures, but they also have a different toy line called Ultimates, which are supposed to be very high-end, larger, high articulation type figures. And now they have finally created those Ultimate figures for Transformers. So I guess think of them as a very fancy version of robot enhanced design that Hasbro does on its own front. These will just be bigger and much more expensive. Now normally I wouldn't be overly interested in these. Normally the price would kind of make me shy away from non-transforming Transformers action figures, right? I would just kind of write them off as like, expensive merchandise. However, in this first wave, they included two very, very interesting figures. They gave us this one, Banzai-Tron, and they also gave us Bombshell, who are both Action Masters. If any of you are unfamiliar with what an Action Master is, it was a subline of Transformers introduced near the tail end of Generation 1 of non-transforming Transformers action figures. And there was an in-universe explanation for why these Transformers didn't transform, but really it was just Hasbro throwing things at the wall and trying to follow trends. So typically they would give up their ability to transform and instead would have some sort of a weapon or partner or something that transformed instead. Banzai-Tron here was one of the characters that was original to Action Masters, as in there was no pre-Action Master version of him out there. Whereas the other figure in this wave, Bombshell, clearly had a regular transforming version. He's, one of the three main Decepticons. But he did go on to get an Action Master version too. So what these toys are, is they are larger, more articulated revisitings of those old Action Master toys, complete with their partners. So I decided to bite, right, because Hasbro has really let me down on the Action Master front. I thought for sure they were going to take advantage of RED and do Action Masters there, because that'd be the perfect outlet, but they don't seem to be interested in that. They just want to do, like, A-tier TV show characters in non-transforming forms. Which, it's their prerogative. They can make whatever they want, but, it left me feeling a little dissatisfied. So, seeing these come out, I had to jump on at least these two in the first wave. So, with that long introduction out of the way, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at the toy's packaging, then we'll open it up, we'll get a good look at Banzai-Tron himself. I don't believe he comes with instructions, I could be wrong, we'll find out together. We'll check out his posability, check out his little partner accessory. I will be doing at least some group shots and comparisons today, if anything just to compare scale, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Banzai-Tron, shipped in this regular cardboard overbox, has the Transformers logo on it with his name, Banzai-Tron. Actually, that's in a font very similar to the one I use in my video intros. Alright, nothing real special back here, just some legal info and branding, all that stuff. So we got a flap right here. I'm going to open that. Very carefully remove this. Oh, it's in cellophane. How fancy. Right, get this box out of here. Turn this around. Oh, that is the front. Okay, so that's the front of the box. It's a closed box. That's interesting. So it's got a grid pattern similar to old 80s Transformers toys. And then it has this foil line art of Banzai-Tron right here. You can see his name down there, Super 7. Oh, this is a sleeve, isn't it? Okay, so let me go ahead and remove the cellophane. So we can set this down like so. All right, so that's, this is the oversleeve. You get his name printed in this nice shiny print here. Get the Ultimates logo here on the top. The word Decepticon with the Decepticon logo right there. And then a big foil Decepticon logo on the back. So very cool. They aim to impress with these things. Oh, look at this. Here we go. We're taking off the sleeve. Oh, yeah. All right, so this is our actual, inner packaging. So we got a nice big window with Banzai-Tron right here in the middle. You can see he's quite large, at least the size of a Voyager, and a fairly tall one at that. We can also see that he comes with his classic rifle/knife weapon. He gets 2 extra pairs of hands, so something similar to RED. And then he gets his little partner in the back. You can barely see it, but he's back there. There appears to be a bunch of blue foil surrounding him on the inside, which is really nice. You get the Transformers logo done up in the style of the Action Masters era of Transformers, instead of like your typical 1984 style. So that is very cool. And you get his name right there. And I don't think there's anything special on the sides, just that purple to black gradient. Oh, look at this. We get tech specs on the back. That is cool. So we get that same line art render, this time just done up differently. The logos, Action Masters. Oh, they got the Action Masters logo. Check that out. All right, you get his allegiance, his name, and we get his old specs. And these, unlike the modern reissues of like Beast Wars and G1, actually retain like all of the original tech spec stats. So we have strength, intelligence, speed, endurance, rank, courage, firepower, and skill. Been a long time since I've seen that, right? I don't know why they had to truncate those down so much. It made them far less interesting. I never owned the original Banzai-Tron, so I can't verify that these are his original specs right at the moment, but I'm going to, give them the benefit of the doubt and assume they are. So skill being a 10 makes sense because Banzai-Tron is supposed to be a master of martial arts. So I can totally see that being the case. And he's really no slouch with his other stats either. Most of the others are an 8 or 9, and then even his lowest stats are a 7, so he's a rather powerful character. Alright, so I really like this. I think it came out very, very well. The packaging definitely helps give a nice premium feel to this toy, which, I mean, for like $50-something, it better, I swear, if it weren't for the fact that these are Action Masters, and this may be the only way we ever get the Action Masters, I would not have spent the kind of money on a non-transforming toy, but yeah, it is really cool, so we're gonna check it out together and see if it's worth it. Okay, now we get to see everything fleshed out and out of the packaging. So we see our Banzai-Tron right in the middle, and he's a big boy. Like I said, more or less Voyager size. Now we finally get to check out the articulation, which is something that really hasn't been covered at all. Like, when these toys first got revealed, it was just like these early kind of mock, like, prototype things, which didn't have all the articulation cut into them. And there's nothing about it on the packaging, really wasn't advertised, so we didn't really fully know what we were going to get. And now it's time to find out. So, first thing we see is a ball-jointed head, which is nice. He's got universal shoulders, even though they look like ball joints, they are universals. And they have a good range of motion. They don't go out very far because of, clearance with his armor, but a fair amount. Not too bad. He has elbows that, unfortunately, they don't get a lot of bend, and a lot of that is also because of clearance with his armor. You have to kind of turn it to the side a little to get more of a bend in there. And then he also has a bicep swivel and an elbow swivel. So that's interesting. Seems a little redundant, but can't complain about more articulation. He's got universal wrists, like an RED figure or Marvel Legends or something like that. He actually has ab crunch. It's not a lot, but he can lean back and he can lean forward a bit, so you can get some nice dynamic poses out of him, which is nice. A full waist swivel. And then he gets universal hips that can spread out really far, go back and forth. He has a high thigh swivel. He has single bend knees, which unfortunately don't get much more than like a 45-degree bend. And again, it's all clearance. What I heard from somebody, I can't verify it, but someone on a forum was saying that I guess Super 7's thing when it comes to their Ultimates, when they're recreating a toy, is they work with the joints and the cuts that were already there in the original toy. So like they're not going to put, say, like a thigh swivel in the middle of this purple piece. They're not going to like cut away at the back of the knee to give more articulation. They're, recreating the toy first and then just adding in articulation when they can. That's what I heard the design philosophy is, which if that's the case, okay. I mean, it's their toy and all that. Personally, I wouldn't mind them making small modifications just to allow for a greater range of posability. But at least if you know that much, you know what to expect in future releases. So we see that. He has a knee swivel too. And then he has ankle rock. Not a whole lot, but he gets that about that much. And then a rotation. And again, not a whole lot because of clearance. So he does have a lot of articulation points, but a lot of them, if not all of them, are hindered by clearance issues. So just be aware of that. He's not going to be the most posable thing out there, but a lot more posable than the original figure, which had that like really old 80s style action figure articulation of, basically like the arms did this and the legs did this, and that was about it. So yeah, he does look very good. Even though he doesn't, he's not going to pose to the range of like a Marvel Legends toy, he does look fantastic for what he is. And now we can see that the toy comes packaged with these closed fists, which is reminiscent of the original toy. The original toy, however, had 5mm holes placed in the middle of these fists, which, makes it able to, hold accessories, but doesn't look very realistic. So they went for a more realistic look with this, where he just gets complete fists without a hole like drilled in the middle of him. And then as alternatives, he gets different hands. So first I'll show you like his kung fu hands. So he gets one hand that's just kind of open or like grasping, and another one that's doing a little point thing, right? Martial artists sometimes do. They look pretty cool. And then alternatively, he also has weapon holding hands. And unlike the original weapon holding hands of the old Action Master, these are more open, and realistically so, because they actually have to hold a handle in them. So then it brings us to his weapon, which is a recreation of the original. It doubles as both a blaster and a sword, depending on which post he uses to hold it. And it's even got a hole in the back of this post, for those that know, and we'll cover that here shortly. So you can have him hold it just like a regular blaster, which looks cool enough. I will say the angle at which he holds it is a little weird. Not the best fit, because it's not just a simple 5mm hole or anything it's going into. I'm also surprised by how big the post is. I guess they just kind of upscaled the post to go with upscaling of the character, because the posts are way bigger than 5mm, which does unfortunately mean they're not going to be compatible with a whole lot. So they really worked just for him and him only. So he can hold it like that, or you can swap it out, put it in vertically, and have him wield it like a sword. Oh, might help if I turned it around. A sword! Voila! So yeah, he gets some options here. So as far as the core figure, I think they did a good job with what they were aiming for. They were taking the original toy and just upping the articulation and giving it just a little bit more, realism when it comes to like how his hands work and everything. Now, of course, we have to get to his partner, Razor Sharp. The original toy of which was a little transforming crab that could become basically a larger body for his blaster weapon and have the blaster attached to him. This, much to my utter dismay, is a completely unarticulated brick. Like, it is a perfect recreation of the original, down to every little detail. And you got like, the flipped in, gun barrel that's supposed to flip out, but it's all one piece. And even the parts that may not actually be part of like one singular piece, like these legs, they're just glued in place so they don't move either. And that's it. You get a very fancy statue of Razor Sharp. That's it. This is what utterly disappoints me about this release, because like everything up to this point has been fantastic and like well worth the buy, and then we get Razor Sharp, who's supposed to be able to interact with this guy and turn into a weapon, and he does nothing. Absolutely, he is a brick, and that's all he is, a stylish brick. Very, very disappointing. Now, I did mention the little hole in the post of this gun, and that hole is kept from the original so that it can plug right on here, like you'd expect it to. Pretty neat, right? Okay. And he can wield this kind of, sort of, like some big old bazooka type weapon. He has to kind of put it over his shoulder like a bazooka. So it does something, but unfortunately it doesn't look nearly as good as the original. Because the original, everything was supposed to kind of fold up out of the way, and he was going to have this long barrel come out that you plug this onto and all that stuff. Now he's just got a crab with a gun on its face, and he's just holding the crab on his shoulder. So, huge downgrade from the original. Now, I don't know what the reason for this was. If it was a budget thing, design philosophy thing, or if it has something to do with the limitations that Hasbro places on third-party stuff, where they don't like third parties making transforming toys, right? Whenever you look at licensed third-party things like your Flame Toy stuff or your PVC statues and all that, they're non-transforming figures or statues or whatever they may be. And apparently Hasbro and Takara have an issue with allowing third parties to make licensed toys actually transform. Now, I would think that extending that restriction to like something very simple, like Razor Sharp here, where he just kind of folds up, I think that would be very ridiculous and pedantic. But maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's why he is just a brick. I'm not really sure. But to me, he is by far the most disappointing part of this whole set. He looks cool, like, on his own. You can just have him displayed next to Banzai-Tron. But the fact that they can't properly interact and do their whole, like, weaponizing type gimmick that the Action Masters are kind of known for, major blow to this toy. Really just kills me that they didn't work that in there. Now here's a picture of Banzai-Tron with our Legacy Bulkhead, a Voyager class, as well as Kingdom Jackpot with sights, a Deluxe class, and fellow Action Master, or at least former Action Master, as this Jackpot can now transform. And just, to give you an idea of how well this guy scales against, the two different size classes. And you can see Bulkhead is not a small Voyager. Like, he's on the high side of a modern-day Voyager, but you can see that Banzai-Tron stands almost a head taller than him, so he's very, very tall, and he absolutely dwarfs his rival Jackpot here. So he's very, very big, and likely is out of scale with, a normal modern collection. Now, in the case of Banzai-Tron, it's hard to know exactly how big he's supposed to be, because the character has barely had any fictional appearances, especially in his regular Generation 1 form. So, the idea of what his scale really should be compared to other Generation 1 based characters, it's very, very hard to tell. In fact, the only one I could really dig up was a single shot of him facing Bludgeon in a single panel in a DreamWorks comic. And that's all I could really find on old Banzai-Tron. And everything else was club exclusive stuff where he had a completely different body, and he did have some very brief appearances in IDW comics, but again, not enough to go off of to really know exactly how big he's supposed to be. But I can say I think he's at least a little too big. Even if he's supposed to be a Voyager, I highly doubt he's supposed to tower over characters like Bulkhead and Optimus Prime. So yeah, don't expect this to blend in very, very well with the Generations collection. If anything, he might actually work better in a Masterpiece collection, where he'd be, about the size of your standard Autobot car characters or something. That may be where he would find a better home than, a Generations shelf. Which is unfortunate because I primarily collect Generations, got priced out of Masterpiece a long time ago. So he really doesn't work for me, but he might work for you. And given, his detail, interchangeable hands, and the general cost of the toy, he may be more intended to be, something more akin to Masterpiece, which, in that case, he probably works a lot better. And this completes our look at the new Super 7 Ultimates Banzai-Tron with Razor Sharp. The Banzai-Tron figure I think is great. I think for what he is, he came out very, very well. He's basically the original toy with more cuts of articulation made into him. And I think it works. Plus, the interchangeable hands just makes him a lot more interesting because he can do different poses with his hands now. Really, really, good effort on Super 7's part. And then Razor Sharp, to me, is an absolute travesty. It's a plastic brick. A well-painted, well-sculpted plastic brick, but a plastic brick that does not serve his original function. Unlike Banzai-Tron, who serves his original function and then some with the added articulation, Razor Sharp, he's really just more of a display piece than anything. Which, doesn't have me very hopeful for future partner figures. We got a Bombshell coming up with his Action Master partner. And we also have a Tarn coming in, I believe it's Wave 3, that's going to have the little Minicon Nickel as a partner. And a lot of people were hoping that Nickel would have at least some basic level of articulation. But if Razor Sharp is anything to go by, I feel like she's just going to be a little figurine and nothing else, which is very, very disappointing. But it seems to be that's what they're going with. They, really focus on the main figure, and any incidental partner, anything like that, is really just a bit of an afterthought. So I think it's a big shame. Do I think that completely destroys the value of this? Not really. A lot of people are buying this for Banzai-Tron anyway, not his partner. Do I think the price is really high? Yeah, I do. For what he is, he's basically like a bigger than average Marvel Legends figure, but costs about twice as much. And, unlike Marvel Legends, he is fairly limited with his articulation because of how they went about his design by not changing anything as far as, the clearance, the panels, all that stuff. Compared to your standard retail release, yeah, I do think it's more cost than value. But Super 7 is known for being kind of high-end, short-run collectible stuff. So in that context, I don't think it's too ridiculous. If this had been like $100 or something, I would have said absolutely no way, not worth it. But for $50 to $55, it's not bad. It makes for a good display piece. Has a lot of options for, doing the display. And he will look good, if not so much in your Generations shelf, he'll look very, very good on a Masterpiece shelf, where he's basically serving his original function, right? An in-scale Transformer that doesn't transform and is just an action figure, just like the original Action Master was compared to other G1 toys. So, I would say he's best for that. So if you are a Masterpiece collector, I think you'll see the most value in this guy. If you were hoping for a one-for-one replacement of the Action Master with his partner, or something that looks good on your Generation shelf, you may be disappointed, and it may not be the worth the higher cost of entry. Of course, at the end of the day, that's up to you. So as always, this is purely my opinion of the toy. Now I want to hear what you guys think of it. Do you plan on picking up this Banzai-Tron, or have you already? If you have picked it up, do you like it? Are you bothered by the fact that Razor Sharp doesn't transform or even move at all? Or do you not want this? Is it just something that it's either not really on your radar, you don't care for, Action Masters, you don't care for the character, maybe it's too expensive for you? Any and all feedback's always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers Super 7 Ultimates Banzai-Tron with Razor Sharp. And with all that said, I will see you next time.